Welcome all to the live summit from obstacles to opportunities. I will give an introduction to the event very shortly, but being mindful of our distinguished guest here, Akmal Saleem, who has joined us as one of our speakers, would like to get underway with the fireside chat with Akmal. So Akmal is the founder and managing partner of Qadr Financial. He's deeply embedded in the global and Saudi Arabian investment landscape and experienced in advising on significant financial deals, amongst other things. And we'll delve into Akmal's unique experience and expertise, offering the audience here valuable insights into venture capital, strategic investments, and the specifics of navigating high stakes environments. As an individual, business leader, and entrepreneur, as you know, today's event is about the modern entrepreneur, but it's also at the same time resilience, and that resilience starts from individual right into the business workplace as well. Akmal, welcome. How are you doing today?
Pleasure. Thank you very much for having me. I'm very well today, and hope everybody in the audience is.
Okay, wonderful. Akmal, thank you. Is there anything that you'd like to share in terms of your journey before we actually delve into maybe some of the questions here briefly?
Yeah, sure. I mean, my kind of still feel that it's still at the beginning parts of everything that I'm doing, but it's on one of exploring global markets, doing business with different, coming out of the UK and literally exploring the world from where I've been for 10 years. And more recently, I've just done a discovery tour, the first one, and so I love understanding different communities and and connecting through enterprise.
Wonderful, Akmal. This is wonderful. We are really honored to have you here today. Well, let's talk about the Saudi investment landscape, and we'll integrate some of the things around resilience and leadership along the way. But with your extensive experience in deal making in Saudi Arabia, can you perhaps just outline a few key opportunities and challenges for new entrepreneurs or even established entrepreneurs looking to enter in that market? What are some of the steps that people would need to undertake?
Absolutely. I think commonly when it comes to Saudi Arabia, there's preconceptions of Saudi Arabia, and I think one of the important things that people should generally think about Arabia as a market is to break those preconceptions and direct first. Is it over the last 10 years and it's accelerated 3 to 4 years, there's been a huge cultural dimension shift in terms of how there's locally that and interact with foreign. There's always been foreign companies here, and there's always been foreigners who have worked as expats. However, this shift has been quite significant in terms of culturally foreign companies are viewed, um, and things that they need to be successful in the kingdom. And and so when it comes to opportunity, as they say, it's a deer in the headlight moment for most people when they turn opportunity that they actually get nothing done. And that's one of the big things that turn up in Saudi Arabia. And I'm like, it's so greenfield, there's so many opportunities here. You can easily get lost in running around trying to find the opportunity, get the opportunity, actually implementing or executing on those opportunities. The major thing people, when it comes to Saudi Arabia, need to appreciate is for our strategy and plan. in order to crack Saudi Arabia as a market. The other thing that I find often is people will come to me in the last 5 years or whatever, and somehow people feel so Bahrain is the Middle East, but Saudi Arabia's market and its demographics and its economic makeup is completely different to GCC countries. And a lot of people just feel that just because they've been in Dubai for a few years, that it's completely the opposite. They have no idea actually, because they're basically different. And also it's um, locally, it's not taken well actually when people been in Dubai. So I know Saudi Arabia, and I know you don't know our culture, you don't know
Yeah.
the nuance in Emiratis and Saudis. So that's a point that I label the demographic, and it should be understood differently. And Saudi Arabia is the market's GCC country, so that's also a very important point to acknowledge. So those are a few kind of areas that I would say, and I'm kind of merging opportunity you have to kind of think about together when it comes to Saudi as a market,
Yeah.
and then really just appreciating the different you can do deals. So a lot of people again will come to me and be like, I just want to meet family offices. Family
Yeah.
offices at different tiers, different levels, and who have different strategies, different aims and objectives. If you don't align with what type of family office you're looking for, deal done. So yeah, I think there's a few areas that I would initially.
Yeah. Akmal, that's really great advice, and how you described it. So my replay and my summary there is great opportunities in Saudi Arabia, but there's also a need for leaders, individuals who are coming to the country to understand the regional differences, but also align that with Saudi Arabia as well, because there are differences within just the UAE, for example, or Bahrain, as you're describing. But also, one other aspect is understanding the strategy and plan, and what specific types of opportunities you want to explore, as you were also describing about family offices, different tiers, and so forth. Let's delve into maybe some of the venture capital related elements here. So, Akmal, you've got some great leadership and roles in launching significant VC funds or types of investments. Share with us some practical strategies that entrepreneurs or business leaders, either locally or from other countries, or even for fund managers, should implement to successfully attract, manage investments in the region. And let's talk Saudi Arabia, but also globally as well, because you have that blend of not only Saudi Arabia but other regions as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think when it comes to venture capital, fund we particularly work is supporting first-time fund managers to space, and that's an area where a lot of people just are actually clued up on. How do you launch a fund? Lots of people want to go into launch that fund, and how do you operate that fund? How do you fundraise for a fund manager, emerging manager, and so my Marvin gave very super clear investment strategy when it comes to VC. What your venture capital fund is going to look at is this is obviously for managers. This and map out what that looks like. Within venture capital, you can have networking VCs and different types of VCs, and it's critical to know which one you are, so that when you go and fundraise, um, that it's a super strategy. And touching upon that fundraising part, a lot of people feel that when they're fundraising for their fund, they're doing this up in a business that they've exited. and they've raised lots of money from investors. Tactical approach when it comes to raising money for their fund. When it comes to raising, it's a completely different tactical approach because you're raising cap from high net worth individuals who are now becoming not just investing directly into your business. And that's a completely different model because then with some capital, which you're going to manage on their behalf. And so investment is not investing into a company which at an exit will make a certain return, trusting you with actually deploying their capital into projects and making decisions. And so when you're trying to fundraise in that capacity, it's a completely different standard fundraising. So I think, and that applies to the LPs are, you always have to be able to demonstrate a strong management comes to making decisions into businesses, startups, etc., whatever that's. So yeah, I think that's some key pointers.
Yeah, and this comes now down to, that strategic prowess, but also that leadership prowess as well to, as you were describing, making those decisions. When you have those elements of uncertainty or areas that you want to explore, how would fund managers or even these entrepreneurs, how do you, especially in a place where there isn't known aspects, how do they bring that inner strength to actually make some of those decisions? Is it by consulting with local partners, for example, to get a little bit more clarity, or is that because it comes down to inner leadership as well to make certain decisions and take things forward in places where it's uncertain? What's your take on that?
Yeah, absolutely is resilience, especially when it comes to, and it's said many times, and really really pushing for that because the resilience aspect and to truly um, get over the periods where your business isn't working or you feel like your fund isn't going to fundraise. Just a sheer element is actually a massive a massive trait in this stuff. Of course, for me, I'm massively data driven. Um, when making decisions or supporting me make decisions. And so that's, I feel, is always important to have a very clear data set decision making process as much as possible um, and enable you to mitigate those.
That's very good advice. Data, and I'll also add, go with facts as well. And then there's a bit of intuition, I think, that comes comes along with it. No, wonderful, Akmal. Thank you. Um, Saudi Arabia, big projects. You've advised on the launch of Google's first data center in Saudi Arabia, if I understand it correctly, which is about a $1 billion project. How do you see such large-scale investments impacting, the local ecosystem that's in Saudi Arabia, but also within the region, from an economic as well as from a technological landscape perspective?
So from this perspective, the billions, the trillions of dollars around in Saudi Arabia, I think the part when it comes to larger transactions is to appreciate that they happen extremely some and it's not. And again, this comes back down to one of the things I said. Just because there is capital available in this region doesn't mean that things are going to move tomorrow. Seen as a slight, um, how can I put it? Maybe not an insult, but people feel like, oh, because they've got money in Saudi, they're just going to throw it around without thinking about it. who are coming into the kingdom actually have this attitude where they're like, oh yeah, they won't, they'll just give us money. It's just not true, and it's the easiest and quickest way to fail preconceptions. Yes, capital is available, but that capital is very strategically placed. It's used in a particular way, part of obviously the Vision 2030, and the allocation is very different to its um, just because $1 billion has been allocated doesn't mean that $1 billion will be. It's again an area which people don't fully understand and would mirror in larger deals.
Yeah. Okay, no, understood. And when it comes to advising family offices, you've got a great expertise in family office advisory, including the work with the royal family. What unique considerations do family offices need to manage when engaging with, let's say, venture capital, but even also technological investments?
When it comes to family offices, the key thing is to understand why they're investing, family wealth journey that they're on, and that then some and helping make decisions. Is it for example, an establishing family that's looking to sustainability with their investments? Is it an established family that is now looking at diversification? So it's very important to understand the stage that, and then support them in making those or supporting and and which then align with that. From a generational wealth perspective, it's very important to look at that aspect.
Yeah. And do you find differences with the region as well, from a family office's perspective, the way things operate in the region, like even in Saudi Arabia, but also other parts of Middle East, for example, and in comparison to other global locations, the operations of how family offices work. Do you find some differences around that?
It's a good question. Definitely nuanced differences, but ultimately family offices have, which is to grow, create generational wealth, and that's the core principle. Where the differences starts around how the next generation view wealth and managed, looked at, um, distributed, the allocations from a personal to a investment, and the structures end up um, coming in. But from most families that I've worked with or advised across the world, always have a similar sentiment. We've built wealth. We want to maintain this. We want to grow it, sustain. Family grows, wealth grows in a manner which sustains lifestyles, etc.
Yeah. That's true. I've had some experience with that myself. But now this is an interesting question here, Akmal. When it comes to high profile clients, for example, or high profile or high net worth type of families, uh, they've got their own sets of challenges. They don't necessarily maybe operate within the same rules as well, and that's understandable. How do you advise entrepreneurs in this space to navigate that complex, dynamics and expectations that come with advising these unique type of high profile clients or royalty or prominent clients, especially when there is that balancing of discretion and transparency, for example. How do you advise entrepreneurs to do that?
Yeah, um, aggression is very important. Trust is essential. to be willing to, um, how can I put it, both of those key traits. You know, competency obviously is very important. You need to understand that you understand them on a personal level.
Yeah.
Then working with family offices, I mean, a lot of people feel that they want to get that they should advise families, for example, is just to explain to them that they can make more objective actually. And you know, it's their objective is how to continue to support their wealth on a generation level and add value to that particular purpose. So understanding their voice is as important as understanding where, for example, they may want to make investments or
Yeah. Okay. Wonderful. And in terms of your vision, Akmal, you're a big proponent around legacy building and your vision around ensuring that that comes to light. So you have expressed that strong vision to have an impact in the world through entrepreneurial leadership and venture investments. Share with us how your experience with that commercial strategy and, technological, fintech, whatever it is that you're doing in Saudi Arabia, but also UK has shaped that vision. What legacies are you aiming to leave for future entrepreneurs and investors in this region? Tell us a little bit more about that legacy that you're looking to build.
sure. So in this regard, it's all about, for me personally, make investments which are beyond profit. So beyond those investments look like how do they change the world or how do they enable change in a manner, and that's something that um, I'm very want to champion. So that's how I view investing, and then and that comes with twofold. I mean, there's a spectrum, but when it comes to that legacy, you're left with obviously more beyond your own lifetime and making sure that you've got a balance in trying. So very important to me personally. So we try and strive to do that.
Yeah. Okay. And Akmal, we're coming to a close very shortly here, but you know, resilience is a very broad term when it comes to an individual, but also to an organization. And with your experience, your capabilities, I know we've touched upon this, but mindful that this is a very critical time in our economy, the different waves of technology that's happening at the moment, lots of disruption. How, in your view, do you advise individuals, but also entrepreneurs to draw out that resilience? Tell us a little bit about your intersection of your experience and how entrepreneurs would come in and bring out resilience at the forefront of how
Yeah,
they're actually operating.
yeah. So I think it comes down to like explore resilience and what they look like. So things like purpose. If you've got a purpose, you can really push to be resilient. You know, regulating your emotions, you're building that emotional intelligence. That's very, very important. You know, mitigating fear appeals that come. So it's an intersection between being emotionally intelligent to challenge your own assumptions. You know, to see resilient in is even worth being resilient in. So it's having um, which enables you to dive deeper and be more resilient because you're challenging that inner self in your business doing.
Wonderful. Akmal, thank you. And we'll close very shortly, but I wanted to give the opportunity to you, Akmal, to challenge the audience who are entrepreneurs or individuals. Do you have a particular challenge that you want to give them um, on how you're operating, for example?
Yeah, I think I think everybody, my challenge to people who will watch this or are watching this is about that emotional intelligence within their business environment. I think it's not talked about enough in order to build emotional intelligence, understand the different and so my challenge to anyone in the audience, understand emotional intelligence and try and place themselves on their spectrum of how they are in terms of their emotional intelligence, and build. A lot of people feel like they have to remove emotion from business. Actually, we're taught that in certain ways. I feel completely and strongly against that. You need to have emotion in order to.
Wonderful. Akmal, we appreciate you for making the time to speak with us today and give us your insights on not only the broader topic of resilience and how entrepreneurs need to operate, but also giving an inside view of how to do business in Saudi Arabia as well. And there's a bit of intersection there. Is there anything else that you wanted to share before we come to a close?
Thank you for having me.
Okay, wonderful, Akmal. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful rest of the day. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right.